and welcome to Daring to Live TV. I am so excited today to have the absolutely wonderful and amazing Madeleine Shaw, the co-founder of Lunapads. If you haven't heard what Lunapads is all about, you absolutely have to check over to their website at www.lunapads.com and see what they're up to. Before I realized the vast amazingness that's going on over there, I had no idea that you were even out there. And it's pretty incredible when you really realize the magnitude of who you're touching in this world. And that's one of the reasons I was so excited to have you on the show today, because one of my greatest missions in this life is to really encourage everyone that they can make a difference. Even if it's in the life of one person, they can truly make a difference if they go out there armed with their gifts and just shine in this world. And you are a perfect example of doing that. You know, what an incredible company you've managed to grow, and also the social impact that you have had on this world has been really incredible. So I'm really excited to welcome Madeleine to the show today. We're going to dive into a couple of questions here. So Madeleine, tell me a little bit about how Lunapads came to you. The idea is so unique.
Yeah, well, they say that necessity is the mother of invention, and that was true for me too. I mean, I was a young woman in my early 20s, and obviously having my period every month, and having to deal with it just like everybody else. And what I realized, though, or what started happening, was I would get bladder infections. And I noticed a pattern of, after a while, I thought, oh, you know, I'm kind of unlucky and whatever. And then after a while, I realized that the bladder infections were setting in within about 24 hours after I started my period. And I thought to myself, wow, what's up with that? And so I stopped using tampons, which was a really big deal because, you know, I kind of relied on those to deal with it. And I didn't get the infections anymore. And like, wow, this is a really powerful thing. Like, it kind of shocked me. You know, we assume that products like tampons are safe and have been, you know, that they shouldn't present us with any adverse effects. But in my case, that was happening, and it kind of frightened me. And I thought, well, I didn't want to use disposable pads because they had always seemed wasteful to me, and they seemed uncomfortable. And I don't know, it was just never a product I'd wanted to use. But when I felt like I didn't have a lot of choice. And so I decided to make washable pads as a response to that. And I thought, why are we so freaked out by menstruation that we assume that we need to have something disposable to handle it? And I thought that was kind of culturally a bit off. And then when I started actually making the pads and using them and like really changing that practice from like just the pop in a tampon and kind of forget about it, it was very mindful about my cycle. In those days, it was more just, you know, in fact, I didn't even think of it as a cycle. I thought of it as having my period. And the other really important thing that happened for me at that time in my life is I decided to stop taking birth control pills. And so I was really having my cycle, you know, for the first time in about 10 years. And it was quite revolutionary to me. And I guess I didn't, it shocked me that I had pushed away and kind of, without realizing I was pushing away, I thought I was just dealing with my life. You know, I didn't want to get pregnant. You know, and I got my period, and I got to keep, you know, going with my life. I'm busy. And those seemed like very practical, empowered choices to make, actually. You know, I was taking care of my body and taking care of it in a way that I thought was quite modern and efficient. And what was sort of lost along the way was that I was actually not really engaging with my body and not really engaging with my cycle. So going off the pill and then stopping with the tampons and switching to washing pads, it really totally changed my perspective around menstruation and woke me up to the fact that our fertility cycles are amazing. They're amazing. They're fascinating. And we've been so strongly conditioned to kind of be afraid of them or be grossed out by them. And when I started looking at it differently, and looking at the products differently too, because the language around feminine hygiene products is all about hygiene and sanitary this and so on. And when I started learning about how many billions of them were going in landfills and all the chemicals that they were in plastic and everything that's actually in them, I thought, wow, we've got this all backwards. This is totally backwards. Like we're doing something that we think is hygienic that is actually risky for our health, is totally polluting the planet. and kind of dishonors how amazing our bodies are and what a gift it is that they work the way they do.
Yeah, it's interesting just to hear you talk about that, because I just had a baby a few months ago now, and even that, in that process of, you know, we sort of have the blinders on going day to day to just saying we've got to do this, we've got to do that. And we don't often stop and listen. And I really found with both my pregnancies that it was really an opportunity to get in touch with what was happening, you know, in my body, obviously a life growing in me, but that connection that up until that point I had really, you know, sort of shut out, to just say, again, same thing. You're going, you know, it's one of these efficient things, you know, you don't have time to really to tap into that power, which is really there. And it's really been that evolution for me as well. So it's pretty incredible when you stop to listen to what your body, it's very powerful.
It's incredibly powerful. And one of the things that I sort of came to realize along the way was, hey, wait a minute, like this whole, and that's the reason I call the products Lunapads, is in reference to the lunar cycle. And I mean, really, what's up with that? What is up with the fact that the lunar cycle is the same as the menstrual cycle is for a lot of women? Not every women, not all of us are on a 28-day cycle, but you know, that's no accident, you guys. That's not a small thing. That is a major superpower. And in fact, that all of life, all of the natural world is cyclical. It works that way. The seasons work that way. The days, you know, time works that way. And that's all happening in our bodies too. And when we drop into that and go, wow, like there's wisdom there, there's power there, there's just plain wow. And, you know, we're not sitting down with girls, you know, when they're adolescents and saying, hey, guess what? You know, you actually have some top drawer superpowers that are coming to you, and connect you with all of nature. Connect you with the tide coming in and going out, and the and what's happening with, like, come on, like that's big. And so I kind of got turned on to that wisdom as part of it. And I just thought, this is such a powerful thing. It's so important that we understand this and that we honor this. And so I've essentially made it my life's work to do that, because it connects also to how we see our bodies in general. You know, it's like if we're sort of looking at this one part of ourselves and going, oh, that's kind of, yeah, that's kind of gross, or that's kind of whatever. It's like, no. Like, we need to love ourselves more. We need to understand ourselves more. We need to accept ourselves more. And when that happens, and we see it, and it happened for me personally, which led me to start the whole business, and I've seen it happen for a lot of women, you know, you're just that much more empowered, you know, and you can, and that much more able to enjoy your body and experience the pleasure there too, because you just know yourself better, right? You know all of it better. It isn't just like, oh, I just want the fun parts.
Yeah.
You know all of it. Then we can go deeper in the areas that bring us pleasure, or, you know, if we're trying to conceive, like, you're just that much smarter about it and know what's happening. And I just love that. And then it translates into this whole kind of realm of body positivity. It can be easier to create boundaries with people around our bodies. It can be easier to enjoy them. Like, it changed so much for me. And I thought, wow, this is on a really important continuum. And speaking of being a mom, like, you know, the whole thing around birth and breastfeeding and the choices we make with those things, and how empowered and conscious and able to just deal with the junk that comes our way around those choices, right? We can be, and it's a wonderful, it's a gift. I just love it. It makes me so happy, and I love that it's kind of challenging even sometimes for people to sort of wrap their minds around. And I don't know. There's a lot in it that is really rich and inspiring.
Yeah, I love that. And that just all came from your own personal journey with, you know, with having an issue with them, obviously. So that's incredible.
Yeah.
So now, obviously there must have been some time between that happening in your life and thinking, this is going to be a business idea. You know, I imagine that there was some skepticism around, you know, people's reactions to you saying, I'm going to go out there and revolutionize the period.
Yeah, there was. And, but, there was also a lot of encouragement. So, I
Mm.
thought of the idea in 93 and started making the products. And 94, I actually went to BCIT and enrolled in a venture, it's called the Venture Program, kind of an entrepreneurial training boot camp kind of thing. And that's when I wrote the first business plan for Lunapads. And they were amazing. Like, it was all administered by men, and all the teachers were men, and they were all into it. They actually gave me a
Mm.
prize for one of the best business plans in the class. And so, there was there was both. Like, there were people who were really excited about the idea
Mm.
and who really believed in me right from the very beginning, and other people who were still in their kind of stuff around, just needing to open up for change or not being ready to do that as
Mm.
customers. And so, yeah, for sure, some people, even some people close to me, were just like, I'm sorry, I love you, and that's just a crazy idea, and that's work. You got to go get a job, kind of thing. And so, okay, but the thing is, the question I'm seeing here is like, how did I stay grounded in that vision? And like,
Mm.
it was just so real to me. Like, it was so powerful. Like, and the transformation I had experienced, and I just really felt so motivated to share that with
Mm.
other women, that it just stayed with me. And then the ones who were into it were into it, and so I don't know, I just knew I was onto something, and that the idea of creating social change. I mean, I've been a social change activist
Mm.
since I was a teenager, basically, and so that to me is like catnip. Like, that's what I want to do. I want to help. I'm sort of like you, but choose. So, and so when that feeling comes around, it's such a power. It's irresistible.
Mm.
So, and also wanting to kind of mess with the established order of a business kind of culture that basically celebrates um, making as much money as possible without really taking responsibility for externalities or what's in the products or what happens to them when they hit a
Mm.
landfill or whatever. That's got to change. That has to go. So
Mhm.
I knew that as an entrepreneur, I wanted to embrace a different kind of business practice that was, values based, but
Mm.
that was also successful financially, because
Mhm.
that's a great way to change the world. If you can attach a business model to a social change agenda successfully, then you're really doing something
Mm.
amazing.
And it doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be both, and it should be both.
Yes, I totally agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I certainly know that one of the reasons I was so excited to have you on the show is because I'm such a true believer that every person can make a difference in this world.
Mm-hmm.
And you just embody that in such a huge way. How did you begin to realize the full potential of the difference that Lunapads could make in developing countries? Because that's such a huge mandate of yours.
It is. And that, when I started out, I was just thinking about me, obviously, thinking about women in Canada, and then I was thinking about women in North America. And um, I didn't know about the situation of girls and women in the developing world until 2000.
Mm.
So I was 7 years into it, and we received a letter from a woman in Zimbabwe, and she wrote to us and said, "Hey, did you know that in the developing world, girls and women often lack access to any form of feminine hygiene products at
Mm.
all,
Wow.
and as a result are using either really horrible unsanitary means to manage their periods, or they're just staying home. And often, like, staying home means digging a hole in the ground and just sitting on it and letting their menses flow into the ground,
Mm.
going to school or not going to work." And I was really, I mean, Suzanne and I, my business partner, we were really shocked. I mean, it was like, wow, look at this. First, talk about our, we're so first world, right? We're so,
Mm.
in so many ways. And I just thought, wow, how can this be the case? But then when I thought about it, it's like, sure, why would it? They don't have Costco and Shoppers Drug Mart and all these aisles full of plastic and stuff like that. That's us. That's the Western disposable
Mm-hmm.
mentality that has those kinds of products. And but we were really devastated to hear about particularly the girls,
Mm.
because we started learning about how important it is for girls to stay in school, not just for them, Like girls actually in the developing world, and just to get a sense of perspective, there are 600 million girls in the developing world. They're the game changers. They're the ones, if you give them a chance, if you give them an education, they're going to be the ones who are going to be the next generation of leaders, entrepreneurs. They're going to be the next generation of mothers, obviously. If they're educated, they raise healthier children. They have fewer children. They have children later in life, which is better for their health. And it's an amazing thing. Like, so educating girls is actually the single most effective way to create positive change in developing countries in general. So we got really passionate about it because the other thing that we learned was that disposable products are not really an effective solution. Because if you imagine it, here's these girls, give them a box of pads or a plastic thing full of pads. Well, you're going to have to keep doing that, and then there's no landfill capacity. Super expensive. And often, actually, they don't even have panties. And so that's another thing we set out to address. And so using reusable products like the ones we were making with Lunapads and Lunapanties turned out to be kind of a perfect solution. And so we started donating them. We started in Zimbabwe, and then we started blogging about it. And so more groups started learning about it. And pretty soon we were sending out, oh my gosh, I think we've sent them so far to about 15 countries. And then in 2008, we really turned a corner. We were contacted by a couple of development workers who were working in Uganda, and they said that they had received some of our pads, and through another volunteer who had come from Vancouver to Uganda, and they asked us if they could start a business, if they could copy the pads and start a business making them and selling them in Uganda. And we thought, wow, that actually seems like a really good idea, right? Because they could do it more efficiently. If you think about it, making things in Canada and sending them over to East Africa or Central America or wherever, it doesn't actually make that much sense, because if they can make them locally and go that way. So we were really encouraged that. We said, sure, of course, go ahead. And a year ago, actually, we went to Uganda and we met them they're called Paul and Sonia, and the company they founded is called AfriPads. And met them, and they are rocking it. Like, they're so amazing. Just to give you some quick stats, they employ over 65 women.
Wow.
And men. Actually, they've got some male employees too, so they're employing 65 people. And they've supplied over 120,000 girls with pads. Like, I mean, that's just so much more than we could have ever done on our own, And so it took a bit of a leap of faith. Like, a lot of people at the time, again, were sort of skeptical, said, you guys should, you got to protect your intellectual property and, get a contract or get royalties, or I don't know, something. And we just said no to all of that, and yes to them just doing it. And we kind of mentored them all along the way. And to me, it's a really powerful example of kind of, I don't know, just letting the universe take care of itself and not being all graspy and not like, oh, I have to control this and it's mine and it's, whatever. And it's like, no, like, we weren't selling things in Uganda. Like, what, I don't know. I like to be very open source around our business practice, and to me, it comes from a place of abundance. Like, if you believe that there's enough for everyone, and you don't need to control, and you don't need to, grasp and do all these things, then you have a much better. It's just freer. Like, it allows for so much more possibility to occur. So I'd say with the AfriPads piece, like, it's growing so much even now. And I just love that it has this additional impact. Like, for Western women, they use our products, and yeah, they might feel better about their cycles, or they might be happy that they're saving money, or they might feel healthier because they're not getting infections, and they might, those are all really good things. But in the case of the girls in the developing world, like, you're actually literally changing their future. And that is huge. That is just, I don't know, that just opens up my heart more than anything else and motivates me more than anything else. And so I see a lot of our future occurring around that. Like, it's become basically half of what I do.
I just am so humbled by the whole magnitude of how you took just something that was happening in your life and the ripple effects that it has, brought onto this whole world. It's truly unbelievable. Really, really, truly unbelievable.
Well, it feels like it was meant to happen. You know, I feel really lucky. Like, I mean, we all have our gifts and we all have our challenges in
Mm,
life. And I feel like for me, with respect to my career or my life's work or my calling or whatever, that part from the minute I started making the products, the minute I thought of it even, I was like, okay, I'm good. Tick. You know, it's like I've met my perfect career
mm,
and just trusted in that. And you know, other parts of my life, like anybody else, I've been confused or um, taken different directions or felt uncertainty. But with that, I never have.
mm.
It's just always felt like, okay, I was born to do this, and I just feel really grateful.
I love that. Now, you guys are doing a really, really amazing campaign right now called Pads for Oprah. So tell me a little bit about that because I know she's coming on Thursday. And so this is very much in line with what's happening.
Yeah, well, I mean, Oprah, right? Wow.
Mm.
There's a game-changing person, and um, so we just thought when we heard she was coming to Vancouver, because everybody used to always say to me or has said to me for years, you got to get on Oprah, you've got to get on Oprah. And of course, so I'd go on, her website and email and say, can we be on your show? And here's the thing. And, and didn't get a response, and that's okay. And so when we realized she was coming to Vancouver, my business partner, Suzanne, was like, oh, we got to get tickets, we got to go. And then we, thinking about, okay, what should we do around it? And so, yeah, we created a campaign called Pads for Oprah, which is sort of a spin on our Pads for Girls campaign. And the idea is that, she is really interested in, well, lots of things, but particularly girls' education in the developing world. And so we thought, let's do something to celebrate her and celebrate her interest in that and show her also that we too are interested in our own way in this. And so, we actually got in touch with her school, the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls, or tried to, I suppose. We've reached out to them, and we learned that there's about 400 girls at the school, and we're still trying to find out whether or not they could actually use the pads, but we thought, well, whether they go to the girls at that school or they could go to other recipients, like girls who don't have pads, in South Africa, because we do actually a lot of work in South Africa, and we'll just find 400 girls that need them and kind of do this donation in her honor. And so that became the campaign. And so hopefully she will learn about it. So we're basically going through Twitter. So to talk about it and get people to share, we've made a beautiful video about why we're doing what we're doing. And so it would be great. It'd be great if I mean, my feeling is that if we're able to actually get, there's been this whole Lance Armstrong thing and all of this other stuff has happened, right? How busy are you if you're Oprah, right? I mean, it's pretty intense. But if she did happen to, register that there are these women in Vancouver who have found this really amazing way to support education for girls in the developing world and have a great story to tell and want to celebrate the fact that she's coming to Vancouver in this unique way, that she would be into it.
Mm.
Oprah would love it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like she just would, but it's trying to reach her, and so we're doing that through various channels, and she does have a creative team, obviously. At the OWN network, and so trying to reach them, trying to reach her through Twitter, trying to whatever we can do, and with the goal of, I mean, obviously meeting her in Vancouver would be the hitting it out of the park version of success. And or you know what, even if we're just able to get their attention and they go, wow, this is an interesting issue, let's take a look, and decide to do a show or talk about it, that would be remarkable sometime in the future as well. So I'm just not super attached to the outcome and just putting it out there. And in the meantime, we have a great story. There are 400 more girls who are going to receive supplies to help them stay in school, and everybody's happy, and we get to go to Oprah on Thursday night.
Yay. Well, I'll make sure I put the hashtag at the bottom of the interview here so everyone can start tweeting that out.
Thank you. And there's a beautiful blog post with a video on the Lunapads blog right now that it's like a 90-second video. It's just Suzanne and I basically saying, hey, listen, here's the thing, Oprah, please pay attention. So any tweeting, any sharing of that video would be really, really helpful for us. And thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Madeleine. Such an inspiration to me, but I know to most likely everyone that you meet on really following your own journey and just being open to what the possibilities are. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. And Madeleine will be joining us on the panel as well at the Fearless Freedom Summit on February 2nd. So if you want to come and hear a little bit more about her story, make sure you get your tickets. So thank you so much. I really greatly appreciate you taking the time, and I'll see you soon. Enjoy Oprah.
Thanks, Nikki. I can't wait. Thanks again for everything.
Yeah,
Fabulous.
absolutely. Bye. Bye, everyone.